We're going to take you on a dramatic and fast-paced tour of Saigon, and we're going to do it in a unique way on the back of a motorcycle. We'll be taking you from one end of the city to the other, showing you a real cross-section of Saigon and illustrating how the city functions from street-level viewpoint. So come along and let's take a ride. We're starting our tour in the central modern heart of downtown Saigon. This very modern section is not a very large area. Maybe it's about 10 square blocks. And it's quite spectacular with many brand new stores and cafes and hotels and high-rise buildings. There's a lot of upscale shops here. There's the Louis Vuittons and the Gucci's and the trendy cafes and the wonderful restaurants. This high-end glamour is really not typical of the rest of Saigon. About 95% of the city is a real working class kind of place, as we're going to be showing you on our motorcycle ride from one end of town to the other. Riding on a motorcycle taxi in Saigon, that's another good way to get around. You go fast, you cut right through the traffic, and it's inexpensive. It's a lot of fun and very safe. You don't see motorcycles crashing here. It's very safe, right? Right. No problem. And you get a real good view of the scenery this way on the back of a motorcycle.
You want to go around
yeah, sure. We can go around it.
Yeah.
My driver here.
Yes.
My driver's an expert. He's a professional motorcycle taxi driver, yes? How many years you drive motorcycle taxi?
Me?
Yeah, how many years?
About 5 years.
5 years, motorcycle taxi. You're good at this? You know the city good?
City good.
You know Saigon?
I am living for same reason.
For how long?
Everywhere.
Yeah, hey. You'll find a lot of motorcycle taxi drivers.
Yes.
And you can bargain a little bit, get a good price. And right now we're in the center of town, very busy spot. As we roll along through these fascinating and busy streets of Saigon, I'd like to share some general observations with you about motorcycles and traffic and life on the streets in this amazing city. It's a big city. There's about 6 million people in the town and probably another 6 million people in the surrounding metropolitan region. It's estimated that there might be 3 million motorcycles or maybe 4 million motorcycles. It's a little hard to tell. So this is a very large downtown, and we're going to be driving across it. It's about a 1-hour motorcycle ride that we'll be summarizing for you here in the program. As we drive past block after block of continuous shop fronts, you begin to realize that the economy here is doing pretty well. In fact, economic growth in Vietnam has been averaging about 9% every year in the last decade. So it's really making some remarkable progress. They manufacture many of the goods that they sell and have a very diverse and strong economy. Of course, tourism is a big part of that, so they want to encourage you to come visit. And as we drive along, you will see what a fascinating destination it is. And you'll notice that many of the people here are really quite friendly. They see us driving along, and there's some smiles and there's some waves, and very nice people on the roads here. This video was photographed using a special Steadicam rig to make it a very smooth and flowing picture for you, so it's easy on the eyes. Well, we've covered the central market area.
Yes.
In District 1. Now we're going over to Cholon, which is Chinatown. That's another busy area. It's rush hour. It's right about 5:30 on a Monday, so traffic is pretty heavy, but it's amazing. It moves pretty well.
Yeah.
It moves pretty good thanks to all these motor scooters. Most people in Saigon, they drive motor scooters or motorcycles instead of a car. And they're just little motorcycles, about 100cc engine. That's all you need, right?
Right.
Big enough? Okay. Where are we going now?
If you want this way, Chinatown.
Okay, let's go. I think that's a busy place, yeah?
Yeah, very busy.
Many people.
Yes, so much.
Cholon.
Yes.
The drivers are driving really in harmony with each other without worrying about dodging. It's almost a subconscious kind of reaction as they're driving along. They're alert, they're aware, they're looking around and listening, no doubt, but it's almost automatic pilot. At times it might look a little crazy to a Western viewer or one who's accustomed to automobiles, but you'll soon realize that the motorcycles are the best way around town. You might be used to some bumper-to-bumper traffic at home, but it's really nothing compared to what you see here in Saigon. The motorcycles are everywhere, including on the sidewalks. Oh yes, they can park on the sidewalks. It's all very casual here. Their rules are pretty loose. Even the traffic regulations are pretty loose. The traffic lights are more advisory than mandatory in some cases here. But why not allow the motorcycles to park on a sidewalk as long as they're not blocking the pedestrians and there's room to get by generally. And they're driving along at a very moderate pace. It's only about 20 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour. Just enough to keep moving. You're not stopping, you're not slowing down, you're not speeding, you're not racing. So young people, 2 years old, 3 years old, are very used to riding on these motorcycles. They all do it. That's how they get around. And this turns them into really excellent drivers. Think about it. If you've been on two wheels riding on a motorcycle since you were a baby, it's ingrained in your behavior. Well, we're getting closer to Chinatown now.
Yes.
Another half a mile maybe. Traffic is thick and heavy. Rush hour is reaching a peak.
10 years.
10 years.
10 years. Our traffic in Vietnam very good. Now not good.
Not so good now. The population's increasing rapidly here in Saigon. In the last 10 years, it's doubled. So it's a pretty wild traffic situation. But imagine if everybody had cars, it would really be gridlock. It would be completely impossible. They're talking about building a subway. They might build a metro, but that's expensive. It takes a long time. It would be underground if they do it. A nice modern metro system. And people wouldn't have to ride so many motorcycles all the time. But the weather is good for riding a motorcycle. And the drivers are really good. They just veer and weave and dodge, and they're not going to hit you. Everybody is on good behavior on the road, and they're really not going that fast. We're putting along at about 15, 20 miles an hour. So it's a comfortable speed. We're making progress. We're getting across town. We're not stuck in gridlock. Some of these intersections have traffic lights, and they pay attention. Others, there's traffic lights and they just drive right through if it's red. They don't care. And a lot of intersections don't have any traffic lights at all. You have two streets coming together and the motorbikes just take their turns and weave in and out, and somehow it all seems to function. Although the motorcycles are small, they do have some power, and that's important for a safety factor. You want to be able to get out of a jam with a little squirt of the gas and acceleration. So these motorcycles have got about 150 cc's, and some of the newer ones have got fuel injection, which certainly helps to boost the power so that you have enough reserve power to accelerate away from a jam. But that's unusual. They're all going about the same speed. You really see a lot more around you when you're riding on the scooter compared to being inside a car, locked up inside a metal box. You might have air conditioning and the windows up. You can't really see 360 around you when you're in such a car. But on the motorcycle, you can see everything. Automobiles are quite expensive in Vietnam. When you buy a new automobile, the tax can be as much as 100% of the sales price of the car. And then you've got the problem of parking, and you've got the biggest problem of driving. Cars just don't get by in these streets nearly as well as motorcycles do. Can you imagine what these streets would look like? How crowded they would be if all of these vehicles were automobiles instead of motorcycles? It just wouldn't work. It would be complete gridlock. But instead, even though the traffic is pretty heavy with the motorcycles, it just keeps moving, it keeps flowing. It's like a flock of birds or a school of fish. And for the tourist, you can very easily take advantage of this situation by hopping on the back of a motorcycle taxi, as I'm doing here today. It's only about $1 or $2 an hour for driving around, and you can negotiate a price with your driver for a half day of touring if you like. The driver will take you to the various sightseeing highlights and do a little bit of describing and translating for you, and they'll certainly sit and wait outside while you go in and take a look, take some pictures, come on back out. Your driver is waiting for you, and you hop on and off you go to your next destination. That's the easy way on the back of a motorcycle taxi. If you're more daring, you can rent a motorcycle yourself. No problem. You don't need any special license. There's motorcycle rental shops all over town, and the going rate is about $5 a day. Compare that to the cost of a rental car in America. So this is really a good deal. We've now arrived in the heart of Chinatown at the Bingtai Market. It's a huge covered marketplace. It's wholesale and retail, and just a fascinating place to walk around and do some shopping or window shopping or just simply browsing and people watching. In the second half of our program, we'll bring you inside the other large market, Benton. As we drive by the shops along the outside of the market, you get a real feeling for the casual life in the streets here in Saigon. It's a busy city, it's a huge city, but it's also a very laid-back kind of place. After all, here we are at a central shopping area, and there's people hanging out. This is a lifestyle that's gone on for generations, and it's wonderful to see it continuing today. You'll find the motorcycle taxi drivers everywhere in town. You'll see them waiting around. One sure sign is that they have an extra helmet, because helmets are required. Some drivers don't wear helmets, but there's a helmet law here. So you see a couple of guys with their motorcycles and extra helmets. Very easily, you can get a ride with them. They call it a moto or a siom. That's the local slang for the motorcycle. And they are available on many street corners. The men are sitting on or near their motorbikes, and they're pretty obvious. They will perhaps approach you. They might be driving by and offer you a ride. So you'll find it very easy to find these motorcycle taxis. Well, it took about 1 hour to drive across town and show you the sights that we've just seen. And holding that camera out on the Steadicam arm got a little tiring after a while, so the driver suggested that we return via a speedier route. There's actually a nice highway along the edge of downtown, paralleling the canal, and that would be much faster, maybe 10-15 minutes to get back to where we started, rather than going back through the busy streets of downtown. So I guess we've seen enough. It's time to head on back to the hotel, rest up a little bit, and head on out for dinner. Hope you enjoyed the ride. That just about completes our wild motorcycle ride through Saigon. We went from one end of town to the other, from the busy downtown, the upscale shops, through the markets, all the way over to Chinatown. It's about 8 kilometers from one side to the other, so it took us a little while, but it was about a 1 hour sightseeing ride. It's a great way to see the town. So you can use a motorcycle taxi for sightseeing, for a little tour. Just let the driver take you where he knows best. Or you can use a taxi to get from point A to point B. If you're going to a restaurant or you're going to sightseeing, hop on a taxi and go. You'll love it. All right, we made it. When we got back to the Caravel Hotel, I asked my driver to recap our journey. Where did we go on our ride?
We are going to city Saigon and Chinatown. So many.
Busy, yeah?
Yeah, very busy.
But no problem for you?
Yes.
Easy.
Yeah.
Easy driving. Okay, well you did a good job. What's your name?
Nam. Very
Nam.
easy.
Nam, N-A-M.
Yes.
Nam.
Vietnam.
Fortunately, we had just enough daylight left to cover the Odyssey from one end of Saigon to the other, ending up with a beautiful sunset and a return to the 5-star comforts of the Caravel Hotel.